Welcome to Cutting Edge Web Content Development, the podcast where we delve into the world of CMS systems and their crucial role in website and web content development. In each episode, we'll explore the reasons why founders, CEOs, CTOs, and CMOs of web content development companies need CMS systems to thrive in the digital landscape. Get ready to uncover the secrets behind successful website management, content creation, and seamless user experiences. Here's your host, Jonathan Ames.
Welcome to Cutting Edge Web Content Development, a podcast by Butter CMS. Today we're joined by Hash Usami, the Channel Partnerships Manager at CodUp, to share his insights on B2B e-commerce. Welcome, Hash.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the projects or the brands that you've worked on in B2B e-commerce.
Well, I never actually was someone of this industry, of this niche. Post-COVID, when COVID struck, I realized how quintessential it is for me to come to this site, understand tech. And since then, I have been heavily involved in B2B projects. So I've worked with few enterprise brands, mainly in the electronics space, all B2B. Post-COVID, e-commerce was at the boom. However, B2B e-commerce was just starting off. We actually created processes. We made products around B2B commerce. So it's not something that we discovered in a day or a week or a month. It's a gradual process, and I'm still a part of it, still developing.
Yeah, so for those who are learning this for the first time, how would you define B2B e-commerce versus what they already know, B2C, where they go to, say, Amazon or D2C website to buy something? What's B2B e-commerce? What makes it different?
Okay, so I'll give a real-life example. A general direct-to-consumer business versus a business-to-business organization is very different. I mean, similar to that, even e-commerce, when it comes to B2C and B2B. So for example, in direct-to-consumer commerce, we have a direct customer. The pricing is straightforward. There's a single pricing. In B2B, we have tiered pricing. We have role-based pricing. We have volume-based pricing. The sales cycles also with DTC, you go to the website, you buy the product. End the story. B2B sales cycles, longer, multiple decision makers. Purchasings are also account-based. I mean, I could be a client, but I don't necessarily have to come to the website to buy stuff for my company. Someone from my company could be the buyer and he could do the purchasing. So bulk ordering, with DTC stores, bulk ordering is not something specific to DTC. That comes into play with B2B. There's so many more things in B2B.
I think that's what scared a lot of people off from B2B e-commerce is they felt like it was too complex and to do well. And so many people have thought, well, maybe it isn't possible to do that well. But you've done that well with your company. Talk about what makes a good B2B e-commerce experience.
Well, as far as a B2B e-commerce experience is concerned, what I feel is that it should be seamless. Now, you need to understand the buyer's perspective. Typically, in a legacy business and an age-old business, the buyer is not habitual of going to your website, going through the entire category pages, buying individual products. You need to understand they're not shopping for themselves or for their families. They're doing it as one of the job things that they're doing. So then there are instances where seamlessness is something that they require as bottom line. So I'll give you an example. With B2B commerce, there's a functionality called quick order where you have a list of items with their SKU numbers, with the quantity on an Excel sheet, on a CSV. All they need to do with this particular, if you actually make a proper B2B commerce experience, your store should have the ability for the buyers to upload a CSV and voila, everything will fall down in the cart directly without them going to individual products itself.
Pages, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's a key point in B2B e-commerce is the ability to handle a long list of items and to not inconvenience the buyer by having to find them individually, but you can simply upload because, hey, maybe I'm going to several different vendors to upload this and see where I can get a better deal or better terms or better timing. Yeah. So when you're thinking of the challenges of B2B e-commerce, what are the biggest ones that you run into?
I mean, I can think of so many, but the biggest one, I think this is less of a challenge in 2024 as this was in 2023, more in 2022, and more before that. Now people want self-service portals. People want buyer portals. It's very difficult for a business owner or an enterprise business or even a mid-sized business to ask them to change their processes completely, to bring everything on digital platforms. Now, what companies, I had this client in Qatar and she did mention, I'm not going to name her, but I met her at the first website. I mean, it was more grand than the Football World Cup in Qatar. I mean, with all the shenanigans and everything. And she did tell me that heads of Google, the upper management of Google had told her that she has brought some digital transformation. Well, when you visit the website, there is nothing over there. So it's very difficult for them to actually shift, for them to change. But eventually, as time progresses, they have to, because the ones who are actually are cashing in. So this is the biggest challenge for me. That's what I reckon. The other challenges are third-party tech integration. So for example, I am currently working with this client, again, a manufacturer of some hardware products based out of Phoenix, Arizona. Now, they are using a legacy system. Their ERP is called Picor Profit 21. The APIs are so tricky. We are using a third-party middleware, but it required a whole month-long activity just to find the pricing API. But now, since we've gotten it, now it's going to be a walk in the park. So there are many challenges. I mean, again, one thing, Jonathan, I would like to add, B2B e-commerce is just starting to bring fruit. So there is a long way for it to go.
There is. And I don't think really anybody there's not like an out-of-the-box WordPress for B2B e-commerce or a BigCommerce that's made for B2B that's just out of the box. It's got all these features you're talking about. It seems like everyone who's doing B2B e-commerce successfully, it's custom. They had to build it themselves, it seems like. Are there other advanced technologies that are out there that can be leveraged right now?
Yeah, this was true back in 2023. Now, the picture is slightly altered. BigCommerce, the big e-commerce CMS hailing from Sydney, Australia, started working on B2B commerce. And they brought in some really good native features. By the way, my company, myself, I am a B2B specialist of BigCommerce. And very recently, Shopify has created an entire game-changing plan for the B2B commerce. So now Shopify Plus is the plan that you need to be on in order for you to explore almost everything on B2B commerce. Obviously, so Shopify has a very big ecosystem, the native ecosystem. Apart from the native ecosystem, we have a huge third-party app ecosystem. I'm also a certified Shopify consultant. So, I mean, I've known Shopify from before, and the Shopify today, in terms of B2B, is night and day. So I wouldn't completely agree with you on that one.
So it's starting to change.
It is. And the ones who are suffering are, I can name platforms like Magento, most recently Adobe Commerce. They actually are extremely expensive if you want to run a B2B store on it. So perhaps not the best choice of platform for B2B.
Excellent. Interesting. That's some new developments there. So, all right, let's say somebody listening to you right now is saying, all right, this sounds great. Maybe we can do B2B commerce when we couldn't before. What are some of the tactics that you would suggest to them that they should start thinking about?
Okay, so I think the two, I'm not going to say tactics or strategies, there are two ways to go about it. One, the most important thing for any business is their buyer journey. So if you take it from that perspective, I think the sale would become really easy, regardless whether you're using a pre-built platform with pre-built features or you're making everything custom. So the journey is paramount to any business. Do remember that most of these businesses opened 4, 5, 6 decades ago. I mean, it's the third generation that's running the show now, and they have a fixed quota of really close-knit clients. Then they have a second tier of clients and a third tier, which are the offshoots, the newer lot. And they need to cater to everyone from a single platform. B2B commerce, if done properly, gives you the ability to cater to all those. So the foremost thing I would say is the journey. Another thing is the technical flow, which obviously involves the modules. For example, RFQ, request for quote. So that is a module
Very important.
yes, very extremely important, because bulk ordering is something all businesses do. If I am buying a pen from a website, I'll pay the full amount. But if I want to order 500 of those pens, I would expect some sort of negotiation. A really good RFQ module should, and I have a product on WooCommerce that gives the buyer the ability to speak to the admin within the platform, have a back and forth chat, and negotiate on the price. I mean, you can change the quantity, you can change the price. If the buyer agrees, you agree, voila.
Yeah. So it's first understanding this buyer journey. What is the process they're going to go through? And then having the technical ability to do that online. So in the case of like an RFP, being able to chat back and forth and negotiate prices right on the spot.
Okay, so obviously it's not a one size fits all, or this buyer journey is not fixated to RFQ. Some people don't go for RFQ. Some people have their prices already handled offline. So just as I gave an example, they have already created and built relationships over past decades. So if I am a very, very VIP customer of a particular store, my prices are already fixated. So when I log in, the way I am going to view my catalog is not going to be the same as someone who just joined the portal or who just started this relationship. This is called tiered pricing or role-based
Tiered
pricing.
pricing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Very
that
important.
is also there. Yep.
Yeah. So personalization, really important in this. Tiered pricing, one aspect of that, maybe already knowing what the shipping requirements are or any previous deals that have been negotiated with them and having that available. Important. So that's the side of planning it out. What about data? Is there a way to use analytics, data, to be able to help you make better decisions on these B2B sites?
Yes, definitely. Data analytics in B2B serves as a strategic compass, guiding decisions through multiple layers of insight. I mean, at its core, it helps identify purchasing patterns across different customer segments. So, for example, what's my frequency of buying? What time of the month do I come? What products do I buy? There's a whole lot of pattern, a lot more than a typical DTC customer. So you need to understand. Sorry, Jonathan, I'm going to take a minute more, because DTC customers usually are one-off, or they buy something like 5 times a year from a particular store. That's the average. This B2B buyer is going to be on your platform for a longer haul. The frequency is going to be much faster. He will be coming, or they will be coming every month or twice a month or something like that. So there are so many data points that a normal DTC would never have.
Yeah. Now, you're not using Google Analytics, obviously, to gather this. Is this an ERP system, or what's actually gathering this information you're talking about?
So there are analytical tools. Google Analytics also does a fine job. I mean, you have to, yes, there are AI models readily available in the market now that are doing these analytics. In fact, you can train those AI models to do these analytics. I mean, depending how much moolah do you have to run your show. So, yeah.
All right. So last point here on B2B e-commerce, but let's say you've used the data, you've got some insights here. How do you optimize your funnel? Because it's not like a regular D2C where you're like, I just have to remind them to come back and keep changing my offers and see what works. How do you optimize for B2B e-commerce?
So B2B conversion optimization relies on removing friction. I mean, the same could be said for DTC, but I think I can't say it any louder than I already am, because friction with B2B buyers is felt at various places on various positions. For example, creating your own account. So account creation process, and especially for first-time buyers, could be really challenging, because for DTC, you may just want to do SSO, a single sign-on would do. But here, if you want to actually get into a store, you need to upload documents, you need to provide your tax information, you need to do a lot more, because now you are a B2B customer. Same goes for a smart reordering system for existing customers. I mean, personalized pricing displays based on account type and volume commitments could also fast track decision making. So there are many forms of friction. The more hurdles you remove as a store owner, the better optimized experience you would give to your buyers. That's what I would say.
So mainly removing those frictions. There are a lot of different pain points that you would have in a B2B experience that you wouldn't have in a typical B2C. B2C, usually shipping, for instance, is pretty straightforward. They've already figured it out. Whereas B2B, you may have customers in different parts of the globe. You may have restrictions on where you can ship and where you can't. And like you said, maybe you're not using a regular shipper. Maybe now you're using air freight, or you're shipping by ocean and you have to have somebody pick it up there in customs. So yeah, all those things. I'm sure some people listening to this, Hash, are probably feeling overwhelmed. They're like, wow, that's a lot of things to think of. Do you feel like it is something that's doable for the average B2B client to do e-commerce, or is it something that really is only for those who have deep pockets or large teams?
I think day before yesterday, I just logged in a client from Salem, Ohio. And not your typical enterprise or mid-sized client, you would say. The business is dairy products. So butter, cream, milk, all those things. See, not just with B2B commerce. I apologize if a lot of things that I said could actually sound a bit overwhelming, but everything starts from the basic understanding. The major crux of this is that they understand their own business, the way they run their business today, without any commerce, without any e-commerce, without any digitization. What we envision to do is create the same experience online. So we won't actually build everything for you on day one. You don't need to put every typical B2B module, just the ones that you're already using. You don't need tiered pricing. You don't need RFQs. You can just do simple bulk ordering mechanism. You can make your B2B store, make it live. Just make sure that those logins are there, so that not every person can come and explore your catalogs. That is the starting point. But again, it varies from person to person and business to business.
Taking an iterative approach where maybe you say, all right, we're just going to start with this part, like you said, with the bulk pricing, and then we're going to move to something else, could allow some people who otherwise might think, wow, this is too much for me, to maybe look at it and say, you know what, we can start moving our way into this, and then over time optimize and add features and reduce that friction you're talking about. So let me ask you, this is something I ask all my guests, Hash. I'm sure over the course of your career, you've learned a few things that you didn't know when you first started. If you could go back in a time machine and meet yourself at the beginning of your career, what's something important you've learned now that you didn't know then that you wish you would have known?
It's hard to put a finger on it, and it's a very tricky question, very philosophical question. I wouldn't say that. Slightly more your question. That's what I usually do. I'm so sorry for that though. But I would learn how to code. I don't know how to code. And not for the sake of becoming a developer, but a lot of things I am a solutions consultant. I provide solutions. I can chalk out entire journeys. And it's been 20 years since I've been working. Not 20 years in the tech space, but it's been 20 years. So I started off, I'm a filmmaker from Australia. There are many other stories. But yes, looking back, the only thing I say that I could have done was learn coding. And I have started this journey. So I am learning Python. I mean, I shouldn't be saying that, fingers crossed. But because see, as someone who has plenty of ideas, the only way you can actually implement those ideas is without someone else's assistance or help. If I knew coding, I would only help myself.
I've often thought that myself as well. I did not get started in marketing, but ended up here. And coding is really, it's like a language. And if you can understand at least the basics of some code languages, you can interface with developers. And then you can map out these journeys you're talking about in a more informed manner. Whereas otherwise, you're constantly having to go and ask a translator to translate what your ideas are into what's actually possible in the technology.
True that. So in my past life, not a very long time ago, I've been a language trainer. So parlo poco italiano, so a lot of other things which, this is not the best place or time to reveal, but coding is also a language. Now, looking back, I feel that the same methodologies that are used for human languages could be somehow applied to computer languages. Although it's very tricky, it's not the same because you can't speak C# with someone. Yeah. so that's that. But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about CodUp, and because you work there with people helping with B2B commerce all the time. What's CodUp? How could it help people? What kind of people do you help?
So the CEO of CodUp, Asim Bhavani, has come a long way. CodUp started 12 years ago. This is CodUp's 13th year in business, primarily a service-based company with a very big focus on e-commerce. They started off back in 2012 with WordPress. Majority, like 80 to 90% of the projects were WordPress. The situation today is that we have 5 offices, 2 in States, Irvine, Houston. The back office is in Karachi, Pakistan. 1 office in Qatar, 1 in Bersha in Dubai, and a team of 155 people. 80% of those are engineers and developers. So I'm not part of that 80%. But a bit about CodUp is that I've known Asim for a good 20, 21 years. And he's worked tremendously hard. He's persevered his way to what, right now, as I speak, I know this show is going to be live after a while, but right now he's in North Carolina helping the people over there. And then he's planning to go to Florida. He is a philanthropist as well. He is a businessman. He's a business person, but he is, and I think that adds value. So if you are such a person, success is bound to happen to you.
Excellent. Hash, thank you so much for sharing some of your insights and helping me better understand B2B commerce and some of the developments that have happened over the last few years.
Cutting Edge Web Content Development is brought to you by Butter CMS. To find out how you can build better with Butter, stop wasting dev time, and free your marketers from your legacy CMS, visit buttercms.com. Also, make sure to search for Cutting Edge Web Content Development in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Butter CMS, thank you for listening.